For those who've known me before health and fitness became a major part of my life, you would know that I was very, very skinny. And I was not the fit kind of skinny that some athletes carry as a result of their sport. Rather, I was skinny fat with really no muscle definition, no flexibility, no mobility, no real strength. And growing up in New Orleans, which is one of the unhealthiest cities in America, I never truly understood what it meant to eat healthy, nor did I understand how profoundly impactful a healthy diet could be on my life. I had no concept of living a healthy lifestyle, which translated to me eating an atrociously terrible diet that led to me becoming skinny fat. Now, at the time, I didn't realize it, but my poor diet contributed to years of suffering from extreme bouts of depression, anxiety, and a general sense of unwellness throughout my early adulthood. In addition to feeling unwell, both mentally and physically, I also suffered from extreme lack of confidence and insecurities due to having such a small frame and stature. However, as my 30s began knocking on the door, I reached this point where I knew I wanted to make a substantial life change by becoming as healthy and as fit as possible, and food would play a significant role in helping me make this transformation. So this marked the first time in my life that I began paying very close attention to my diet. I began doing all of the things that the health and fitness industry tells people to do: counting calories, tracking macronutrients, drinking protein shakes, eating lots of chicken, broccoli, rice, etc. And what was the result of all of this? Well, it worked. I saw drastic changes to my body. I began to build noticeable muscle mass and muscle definition. My health and my general sense of well-being improved. My confidence shot through the roof. And I began to identify as a very fit person, a very healthy person. And other people noticed as well. But even more importantly, I enjoyed the psychological benefits of knowing that I'm in control of my situation now. But with all of this came an unwanted side effect: an unhealthy relationship with food. You see, when you obsessively measure and track everything that you eat, and when your health and well-being becomes contingent on you sticking to a formulaic concoction of rigid and rather unnatural dietary practices, I believe that you set yourself up for failure. This is because the traditional health and fitness guidance around food not only misses the forest for the trees, but it also requires people to assume very unnatural behaviors and eating patterns that most will find to be impossibly difficult to sustain in a healthy way over the long run. I found that these rules either led people to give up and resort back to old habits, or become obsessive to the point where their eating interferes with their lives in an unhealthy way. And for me, it was the latter. Every time I missed a meal or I didn't get enough protein for the day, I obsessed over it. And it drove my stress levels up much higher than they deserve to be. This is when I started to feel that requiring people to pay such close attention to their caloric and their macronutrient consumption for the whole of their life is both unreasonable and unnatural. Expecting people to consume protein shakes to meet some numerical target based on their body weight is unreasonable and unnatural. Expecting people to limit portion sizes and stop eating before reaching a point of satiety literally goes against our own natural cues. So in my observation and in my opinion, most people are unsuccessful at sustaining their healthy eating goals because the eating protocols that they're following, they're too far removed from the nuances of the natural human experience, from human nature. And if you know anything about me, then you'd know that I'm a minimalist. I live a minimalist lifestyle. You'd know that I genuinely believe in the less is more approach to life. That is, better results tend to be achieved when complexities are removed and processes are broken down to their simplest parts. And you may also know that I'm a deeply philosophical person because in my eyes, philosophy searches for answers to life's dilemmas through intentional and focused thought, which leads to breakthroughs of understanding that otherwise may never have been achieved. And lastly, I really enjoy compiling knowledge from seemingly disjointed topics and stitching them all together to create a bigger picture, a more comprehensive understanding of something. And that's exactly what I did with my understanding of human nutrition, particularly as it relates to being applied practically to people's everyday lives. When considering the realities of human anthropology, the evolution of civilization, psychology and human behavior, the history of the medical industry, and more, I've come to some basic conclusions regarding the issue that many people struggle with when it comes to eating for better health and for wellness. I realized that no other living creature on Earth counts calories, tracks macronutrients, follows a formulaic structure that goes against their own primal inclinations. I realized that we casually use terms like Greek statue to describe an ideal aesthetic, although the Greeks and all other ancient peoples for that matter lived long before the concept of calories and ultra scientific explanations of diet even existed. So I had to ask myself the question, if for the majority of human history, formulaic and rigid eating patterns that go against natural instincts didn't exist in animals or humans, and if all living creatures in nature are able to be strong, healthy, without elaborate scientific studies, then why do modern humans in Western society approach diets so differently? These revelations are what led me to shift away from the traditional health and fitness dietary practices and begin mimicking a diet that looks more like what our ancient ancestral relatives would have eaten 10,000 plus years ago before the rise of mass agriculture and industrial food processing. And this shift has enabled me to eat intuitively with no regard for portion sizes, for caloric intake, for macronutrient profiles. I've effectively eliminated the cognitive demands that serve as barriers to success for many. By taking the minimalist approach and removing these aspects from my process, I spend far less cognitive energy trying to will myself to live and eat in a way that goes against my own primitive nature. And what's more, it has saved me a lot of time and energy by freeing me from the shackles of relying on protein shakes and other artificial lab-made substances to meet my nutritional targets. Now, I think that you can see for yourself that the results are undeniable. Rather than following some obscure advice from people who oftentimes seem to be the opposite of healthy, I experimented on myself over a 10-year period of trial and error. And I found a minimalistic style of eating that produces real results. And that style of eating is what I call the ancestral diet, as it attempts to mimic the eating patterns of our prehistoric ancestors long before modern society just came along and messed everything up. And the best part is that this eating style, it doesn't require engaging in a laundry list of food consumption activities that are rather unnatural and potentially leads to unhealthy relationships with food. And this explains my biggest gripe with the medical world, with big food, the fitness industry, all of that. Because in my opinion, all three are complicit in lacking connectivity to nature and incessantly pushing the masses towards weird solutions that are completely misaligned with our natural behaviors and our natural food consumption patterns. So in short, my health and fitness evolution led me to three core conclusions. First is that standard dietary guidelines promote profits over people. Second is that the modern world unnecessarily overcomplicates nutrition. And third is that eating in alignment with nature produces the best results. So based on these conclusions, I've decided to give you my decade of understanding boiled down into 5 general takeaways about eating that can make a huge difference in your life. Number 1, supplements are for the most part not necessary. Although useful when used for added benefit, relying on supplementation is typically a glaring red flag that your diet is incomplete and it possesses gaps. Even when supplements are used, natural and whole foods or whole food derivatives can be taken as a form of supplements. For example, drinking bone broth in place of a powdered or prepackaged protein shake can help to give a person an added influx of protein. And it's also possible that some rules of thumb in the fitness industry, such as needing to consume exceptionally high levels of protein to build muscle, could be marketing ploys to elevate demand for protein and other supplements. Now, I don't know this for sure, so don't quote me on it. I can only speak from my anecdotal experience, so take it how you want, all right? But I have substantially cut back on my protein consumption by removing protein powders from my nutrition. And I now typically go without really any supplements, or in limited cases, I drink bone broth as an alternative to your traditional protein supplement. I may take some creatine here or there, but in either case, I've really only seen my strength and my physique improve despite not spending a bunch of money or effort on taking a concoction of different supplements. Number 2 is to make sure that your foods pass the history test. So a very simple question helps to quickly decipher between ancestral and non-ancestral foods. And that question is, if I were alive 10,000 years ago, is this something that I would have been able to eat? And looking at it this way will quickly eliminate many foods: Pop-Tarts, pastries, foods with refined sugars, foods with gums and emulsifiers, foods with refined vegetable oils, etc. And what you're left with is a wide assortment of produce, animal products, very lightly processed foods such as cold pressed olive oil or fermented foods. So this simple rule means that you'll be eating a lot less Cheerios and a lot more butter. You'll be consuming whole eggs, including the egg yolk, rather than buying a bottle of pre-made egg whites from the store. This means that you'll be eating more burgers made with sourdough bread and 100% meat, rather than burgers made with all kinds of weird enriched flours and sugars and veggie patties. This also means that you'll be eating more foods that are in season and locally produced, rather than foods that are out of season and transported over long distances. Now, this isn't a foolproof method, okay? There are still some nuances, but this leads to the next principle number 3, which is to pay attention to what happened to your food. So even fresh fruits, fresh vegetables can be sprayed with all kinds of hormone disrupting chemicals, and animals are often fed very terrible diets, raised in very terrible, unhealthy, unsanitary conditions. So it's not necessary to be an expert, but having a general knowledge of what happens before your food arrives at the store or at the market goes a very long way. So for produce, I like to stick to organic whenever I can. And for animal products, I try to make sure that the animal either lived in the wild or was raised in conditions that mimic the wild. For example, choosing pasture-raised beef, grass-fed and finished beef over your standard feedlot beef. Now, also for prepackaged foods, this means I try to stick to foods with extraordinarily simple ingredient lists. Take these 2 labels for peanut butter, for example. One has one simple ingredient, the other has a laundry list of ingredients. So you can only imagine which one is probably healthier. Now, number 4 is to find an eating rhythm that's natural and intuitive to you. If and only if you nail down the ability to decipher between whole and processed foods, and you eat a wide variety of these foods, then you eliminate the need for calorie counting, for nutrient tracking, or dietary restrictions. The foods that you eat will be more aligned with reducing inflammation, supercharging the metabolism in a way that will get your body to find its natural weight and a body composition that favors less fat and more muscle. Number 5 is to pay attention to your lifestyle and your mental health. Now, while many harp on controlling your portions and counting your calories, few people talk about the profound impacts that your lifestyle and your mental health play on your appetite and your ability to properly digest food. For example, lack of sleep triggers the body to release hunger hormones that increase appetite, and chronic lack of sleep can lead to insensitivities towards satiety hormones in the same way that a diabetic is insensitive to insulin, meaning even when eating a sufficient amount, your body struggles to pick up on the natural cues to stop eating. Additionally, stress from poor lifestyle habits that can send many different bodily functions and hormones completely out of balance, which causes the body to process food differently, as is the case for many people living that fast-paced Western lifestyle. These mood and hormonal imbalances contribute significantly to unwanted weight gain and other negative health effects that are triggered by diet. So if you believe that you have room to improve your diet, or if you really want to put more effort into adopting a totally different and a more natural way of eating, then you're in luck. I've recently released a free ebook on the basics of ancestral eating, which you should find helpful. And for those who are ready to go all in and really fight back against the tides of modern living that are making you gain weight, making you lose touch with your health, your physical and your mental fitness, and making you feel generally unfulfilled and unsatisfied, then don't worry, I got you too. I have a 60-day primal fitness program just for people like yourself who are ready to fundamentally transform their lives by going primal with body weight strength building, with ancestral eating, and with making the lifestyle adjustments necessary to not only get your body in shape, but to also sharpen your mind and turn you into the best version of yourself possible, the 2.0 version of yourself. So check the links in the description below for both the free ebook and the 60-day program. And that's everything for today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the message. And until next time, always remember to get up, get out, and get after it. Peace.